Man, I used to be afraid of making mistakes while fabricating. And, building stuff like this, there's just a lot of opportunity for them. But over time, my perspective has changed a bit. See, these days, I'm much more concerned with cultivating my own ability to, adapt and recover to a quality solution, and then just, move ahead to the next challenge. So today, I'm pulling out a bunch of tools, and I'm going to fabricate 2 frame extensions so the anti-roll bar can mount up nice and cozy with the rest of the suspension. I will eventually get it right, but first I am going to screw it up.
So we turn it the other side, right? It's just like setting up the suspension on the Suburban. You gotta measure full stuff, left and right, and you can't, that just won't even fit, right? You got this that kicked forward and up, I guess, a little. So we need to get that amount of clearance right about there, which means, yeah, we're having to mount this guy. Let's pretend that you can see through. He's got to be right about there. So I think it's that second mark right there, the 1 inch. That's where this is going to have to go. Maybe I'll take this all apart. I can never just do this once. I got to do something that makes too many thoughts. Hey y'all. Yeah, so one of the fun things about putting a car together is immediately having to take it apart, blow, the parts off so that you can go and, well, I guess you don't always have to cut up on your frame, but certainly that's what I'm working on. And it's all to put in the sway bar, or anti-roll bar. That's really what these guys call it. But what's cool is a buddy of mine stopped by the shop, Kurt, who you guys might remember. He's been to Moab with me a bunch of times. We did Trail to SEMA. Kurt knows all the stories. I'm so glad you came over today. This is going to be
fun. A lot of time in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
I did not want to go start carving on these frame stubs and risk damaging any of the other components, so we pulled the A-arms and steering rack and set them aside. The anti-roll bar is designed for a frame that is 33 inches outside the rails. And at full steering lock and full bump, there's what I'll just call light interference between the anti-roll bar, that billet aluminum mount, and the boot on the end of the steering rack. To dial in the modifications, I wanted to physically mock up the assembled anti-roll bar in addition to measuring. Sometimes, look, I just think you can trust what your eyes are telling you. And in this case, I'm measuring to validate what I'm seeing. These nylon or Delrin or whatever, these bushings are made of, man, they are super stiff. And I think this sway bar is actually about the same diameter and almost as long as what went on the rear of the Suburban. So it's good and heavy duty. A little bit of lubrication and modest persuasion, it all just goes together.
So I got all the parts and pieces for the anti-roll bar and measured out what they were all going to be to try and figure out exactly how I needed to modify these frame rails. The short answer is it needs to be 33 inches on the outside and 30 inches on the inside. The pad mounts are 1.5 inches, but I could absolutely create that to that dimension, but I wanted to show that you can also just do this visually, just trust your eyes sometimes. And in this case, it's going to be as much about the picture as it is the math. This is the anti-roll bar with the pillow block, whatever, these pad mount that go on the frame. Those are all mounted, indexed, and they're ready to go. And we're gonna go put this on the car and just see how it lays out.
I went ahead and laid this on the top of the frame just because it's easier to visualize the placement.
So I had mocked this up on the car earlier, and just to make sure that a couple of things were true, right? That when I had the sway bar mounted, just everything static, everything fit. But then you've also got to remember to cycle the suspension and both turn the tires left and right. This is exactly from when I set up the front suspension on the Suburban. It was eerily similar. Now, the kit, if I were just building this on a front clip that they provide, I think I could mount the sway bar directly to the bottom of the frame, but this is my frame, and it's also got this adjuster for the position of the rack, and that's just a little bit different. Here, you're gonna take the other side of this, because we're gonna just try and put this in position and see what it looks like.
With the pad mounts being a full inch narrower, I both needed to narrow the frame, obviously, but then also be able to, kind of move it up about 1 inch as well.
You gotta get this right.
Man, these are prophetic words from Kurt, because Look, this plan that I'm hatching to carve up these rails is not going to go how I think it will.
That's pretty handy.
Dude, this thing's super handy.
That's pretty handy. Isn't it crazy when you get something the hard way for so long and then you get this new tool and you're like, oh my god.
What's funny is that tool comes from like the carpenter world.
Yeah.
So carpenters have been doing it the easy way for a long time.
Now, translating all that chicken scratch, my plan is to basically cut on 4x2 structural tube that, oh by the way, has stress in it from welding, and turn it into 3x2, set perfectly parallel and square to the rest of the frame.
Thanks for coming over today. I appreciate you. And all in all, man, it was good to catch up. You're first in the passenger seat when we get this thing going.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Here, I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
As you might guess, the plan didn't work. Structural tube has a load of stresses in it, and as soon as you cut it longitudinally, it's going to curl up like a potato chip. Now, truthfully, I made several mistakes, but at the root, it's a fool's errand trying to make a structural shape that is already an off-the-shelf piece. Like, don't make a 3x2, go get one and cut it to length. That's my lesson. Lastly, I didn't come to understand this in real time. I actually woke up from a dead sleep at 3 a.m. with both the knowledge of my error and the solution.
Tell you what, it's pretty nice to have Summit right here in my backyard when, the metal shop is closed, but I can run up here and they've got, odds and ends. Like, you pay a little bit of a premium for that convenience, but it lets me go back and make progress. So I don't do it all the time, but I am willing to go and pick up a piece of metal so that I can go back and get the front of this frame at least maybe tacked together today. That's kind of my objective.
It is vitally important to make a thoughtful plan, but also to realize that, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, so be flexible and willing to change that plan. I make a lot of things more than once and learn a ton from that first effort. In this case, starting over with a fresh piece of 3x2 allowed me to solve another problem, that of being able to build in a certain amount of installation adjustment into the anti-roll bar mounting points. This whole assembly is super tight to the steering rack and darn near interferes with like one little fitting. And I want to be able to edge the anti-roll bar right up to within like a frog hair of the rest of the system. So a little bit of room for adjustment in the initial fitment, should help get that done. I think that this is all part of like a normal creative process, going through several ideas, like each one building on the last, until we arrive at our best one. And look, any idea that lets me play machinist for a day, I'm all about that. this is all supposed to work together, right? You got the anti-roll bar that's gonna mount on the bottom of these frame rails, and I've got them to where they sit about like this, and there is the driver's side, and this is, you got that one frame stub carved, and well, but you notice I don't have mounting holes here. I've got these pockets that I've milled. That's where these guys come into play. I'm gonna sit just like that, and give me a nice, perfectly flush mounting surface, right? These are the inserts, and I welded the backside. Perfectly flush, and that means that I can mount this hardware and have it be nice and tight and flush. And so it's not just the hardware doing the work, you can get some friction right along in here. A good flat mount needs a perfectly flat or really flat mounting surface to do its best work. So now all I gotta do is start piecing this thing together, get it mocked up on the car, and very carefully weld all this in place. Everything you've seen here is pretty much a full Sunday, but days come to an end, and as you can see, I can actually transform my whole shop to park another car. And it was time to take a break. As an amateur, I don't have a lot of experience having built dozens of cars, so I've got to lean into the tools that I do have, which is an imagination and patience. And a fixture table. With that dimension set, I just went ahead and tacked in the plates and got my first fit-up test ready. For me, there's a great benefit in stopping a day's progress when I know exactly where to pick back up. A time in between is actually really well spent, since my subconscious works out problems my waking mind isn't yet fully aware of. In this case, fitting the mount/rail/anti-roll bar assembly was up next, along with cycling the suspension to test for interference. See, I don't really know how this is all going to go together, at least right out of the gate, so fitting and testing and adjusting, that's just my way of hedging against mistakes I can't easily undo. Another way to hedge? Just get a second set of eyes on something.
Hey, here's what we've got to get done today, right? I've put together and mocked up all this sort of stuff without actually committing to building anything. But the front rails, the 3x2 that I need to modify, that is built, welded, and ready to go on. But I don't want to put them on individually and have them not be level to one another. So you can see I put in another piece of chromoly tubing on the front of this, but I want to show you like how I kind of came up with that and some of the dimensions that I used. Come here, I need to show you how my brain keeps track of most of this stuff. I'm not going to go through all the exact math, but I am just going to say I took a bunch of dimensions of how the anti-roll bar mounted out and the different frame dimensions as they were on the car. If you're doing your own project, one of the things that you need to get is a notebook. I mean, just even like a college-bound spiral notebook, whatever it is, right? Get paper and draw things out and then, mess them up and rumple them up. Doing this stuff is free, right? So I like to make a lot of references and be able to do just a little bit of math to confirm what I know. My eyes are telling me what I see on the car. I've been whittling away at this each night a little bit, just here and there, but I've been thinking about exactly how to execute this. And here's what we're gonna do from this point on. This guy's gonna get tacked, we're gonna go on, we're gonna fit, we're gonna make sure it's all right, burn it in. I gotta knock on some wood. Okay, so we got things just kind of laid out, right? I've used the stops here on my fixture table to get the exact width and dimensions, right? On the inside, it is 28 13/16. And what I'm doing right now is make sure the tube is set at the bottom of the frame rail. This will be just above the anti-roll bar mount when it's all mounted together. And then just something to think of, these are just blocks. These are just regular old pieces of steel that I had left over from some other project. I cut a bunch of these into individual gauges. This is a 2.5 inch. This is 1 1/4. And I'm able to just, hey, if I want something 2.5 inches from the edge of the table, pull those guys out and bang, now you've got a perfect gauge for where you want it. So I'm about to make sure it's where I want it, tack it, and we're gonna fit it on the car.
She come out of break of night, the pink skies waving goodbye. Come out and break a night leaving no traces around. Just trying to free a reckless heart.
You just want to rotate and open it up a little.
Just trying to be as light as a breeze.
Oh yeah, you don't. Where do you put your hammers?
The queen of art, Friday morning. The queen of art,
That's kind of the idea. The roll bar sits almost directly beneath here. And so this is pushed as far back as it can be because the radiator is going to need to start sitting here. But that all fits, about like we thought it would.
She come out of recognize, let's create as always.
A little bit of a Thor's hammer.
You come out of break the night, you'll be wearing her charm so frail. Yeah, she's trying to avoid everyone. Even the battle for peace.
Mig check, 1 2 1 2.
Queen of Ireland, Friday morning. The Queen of Ireland, Friday morning.
If you want to make the welds that are like really super duper pretty, that are on like trophy trucks, that's a 2-pass operation with the root being constant current, very important constant current so that you get good penetration. And then the top being some sort of usually pulsed cap. You're either pulsing with a pedal or if your machine has a pulsing feature, you're using that. I like both, but the pulsing feature on the machine is extremely consistent and the machine has it and I like to use it. So that's what we're gonna do. So I turned it up just a little bit. I got a thinner wire and well, now it's just time to have fun. I don't know the settings like the background and pulse amps that are in there. The pulser on the Multimatic 220 is all automated. So you really just set your interval, but it works pretty good, right? Whatever they set for background amps seems to work really nicely. Let's go test this. We use jack stands and a couple of shims to get a piece of steel level here as a mock-up, and it's within 1/10 of a degree. I think that's gonna work, man. The next thing is to make sure that they're level. I mean, we got level side to side, but we'll have to make sure it's level front to back as well. Okay. Not unexpected, but it pulled up, so we'll have to make that adjustment.
This is the part of the assembly that really had me freaked out from the start. See, tacking all this stuff loose in the air leaves just a bunch of opportunity to screw things up. And without being on a fixture table or, some sort of jig, all I can do is obsessively measure for level and square at each step of the assembly. So that's exactly what I do. It's slow and steady all the way.
Have room to settle down, so I can tack the top and then pull it down. It just gives us something to work against, Let's see how this does. All right, zeroed. 1/10 of a degree. Whoa, 0? I usually regard a 1/10 of a degree as like within the error range for these, kind of cheap little gauges. So I'm usually happy. But I'm always happy at a 1/10. I think that a 1/10 is functionally 0. Based on if I'm tilted forward. Okay, I'm not necessarily gonna chase that, but I am gonna note that it thinks this side is just the smidgiest higher. All right, zeroed. Now, this is a moment of truth. Whatever we find on here, there's no faking, right? There's no,
Oh, Chris and David prepared this ahead of time. Oh, I'm not gonna chase that either. So that's 0. We're gonna check this one. Oh, oh, he needs some attention. He needs to come down quite a lot. Yeah, we've got the room. We knew that going in. Super comfortable. All set. Let's see if we can do this little ballet. Are you able to read that? I'm looking at it. We're also kind of banking on the fact that when I tack this, it'll pull down just a little bit. Roger, tacking. There you go, Doc. Bang. Same. Anybody comes along when this car is like on display or anything and says, a sway bar looks like it's about 0.2 of a degree off, I will not be friendly. From here, I threw a handful of heavy tacks all the way around so we could get down to the business of cycling the steering and suspension. We're in the home stretch, and now we kind of got some systems put together. The arms are back on. It's all very straightforward in terms of just putting arms on a splined end and making sure things bolt together. But what's nice is now we get to start cycling the suspension. And if you've been on this channel for a while, what we're about to do should actually look a little bit familiar to what I did in 2020 on a, just right over there working on the Suburban. Anyway, enough talking, let's go to work. I tell you, it was deja vu all over again, cycling this front suspension with Chris. Look, it's a simple process to move the arms up and down and check clearances at full lock. You just got to do it and kind of keep your eyes open and see what happens. This is the squeeze. This was also the first chance to see what tire clearances looked like with some different bag spacing. And it looks like 10 inches isn't quite enough, and I bet I'll even have to push it past 9 once we get the steering angle dialed. You know, this early look confirmed that, the car is gonna fill up every bit of the factory wide body fenders with these tires. Everything cleared, lock to lock, full stuff, full droop, everything. And soon enough, I was gonna have to burn in all of these welds, but I just wanted to take a short break and toast little accomplishments like these. We're also going to take a quick pause and lay down a few of your decals. If you've got one you'd like to see on the old English wheel here, just send it my way. She fed me with the soup spoon. And actually, Chris and I are gonna pack up a few things and going on a short side hike to a friend's shop to see some really cool projects. One in particular I think y'all will really enjoy. She said a second session. She said Saturday sounds so sweet. She said she'd fix my ankle. This is the squeeze. Dr. G. This is the squeeze. How did I meet you anyway? I think it was through Chris.
I think it was through Chris, whether it be at the brewery or at a race somewhere.
We're here at Dassault Designs here just north of Dallas, and I'm here with my buddy Cole Reynolds. Well, anyway, introduce yourself.
My name is Cole Reynolds. I'm 22 years old. I'm an automotive content creator and racer and all-around enthusiast, and I'm building a crazy mid-engine center drive Chevy love truck. Well, it's a 1974 Chevrolet love truck that I bought when I was 13 for like $750. Basically, the only thing that's left that's actually love truck still is the cab. Everything else is either fiberglass or carbon. But yeah, it's a full tube chassis that I built here at Dassault Designs. The front utilizes Mustang 2 stuff from No Limit Engineering. The rear is all based off of a 5th-gen Camaro that I kind of built a cradle up and then used those pickup points to kind of build a chassis around, and then just made little I'm trying to think of what I bought for this thing that I didn't have to either like modify or change eventually.
Yeah. Are you saying that there's not like a Chevy Love Truck catalog out there for like to turn this into a time attack car?
Sadly not. I wish there was, but that would ruin all the fun and learning how to do everything.
Yeah. Explain to me what's going on here.
So to keep the truck close to 50-50, you know, I try to put as much shit up here as possible. So obviously the Be-Cool radiator is up front and it's set at an angle to be able to be ducted out pretty easily. And then right behind it is the Optima battery. And to save weight, we went with that one, which is, I believe, their D50. It's like their Prius battery. Yeah. It's plenty big enough to run the truck, you know, forever. The footwell, which a lot of people, they're like, what is this? Yeah. This is the footwell in here and with a removable top.
Lots of room for size 12s, buddy.
Yeah, and you can access all of the masters through there.
Okay, now loaded question. Why is the footwell in the center of the truck?
So that's actually what a lot of people ask. When I had this truck originally mocked up, it had a 5.3 in the front, a Muncie M20 behind it, and then the 5th gen Camaro rear end. But I didn't fit with 2 seats. It took up a lot of the room in the footwell.
Yeah.
You know, I was crammed up, you know, like this. So Mike Dussault, the owner of Dussault Designs, was like, move the seat to the center and put that mock-up block, you know, in the bed, you know, to see what it looks like. And I was able to sit in it a lot more comfortably. It's actually, technically, I guess, right-hand drive because the seat is offset about 1.5 inches to the right. I shift on the left and I get in and out of the right, just in case some sanctioning body is like, no center drive, you know, vehicles. I can be like, oh, it's right-hand drive.
Yeah, all the rule makers on looking for the rule breakers.
Yeah. And the, I guess the cab of the truck, it's kind of packed, you know, even though it's only 1 seat in there. So yeah, you can see the, you know, center seat, the Holley digital dash, the SmartWire keypad, Momo wheel. I have all of my electronics kind of mocked up behind the seat, so it's a Holley Dominator and then a Racepack SmartWire EDM. Something that's very controversial that a lot of people hate is that I have the fuel cell inside of the truck, which is technically legal if I put an aluminum bulkhead around it, which I 100% plan to do. A lot more race cars have it like that than you would think. I mean, the GT40, for example, you know, the old school GT40s had saddle tanks right next to them that had just an aluminum cover with carpet over it. Then I got the sequential shifter here.
That's really nice. You got a friend to machine that?
Yeah, my friend Mike Weddle from RF Engineering machined it after a guy here designed it for me, and it still isn't hooked up or anything. I still need to run the linkage all the way back to the SODEV, but it should be fun and it looks cool. Kind of looks like a bowling pin to me, but it's sturdy, looks cool, and it'll do its job.
Well, that's like right there at your knee too. So like your driver placement and the way it just looks like you've got this all very nice and ergonomic.
Yeah, I set it up to where I will have the least amount of time trying to, you know, go from the wheel to the shifter and back to the wheel.
But this is one of those rare double-ended mullets with the party in front and back.
So this is, I guess, where a lot of the attention...
this is party zone, dude.
Yeah. This is just a mock-up block, but it'll end up having an iron block 5.3 with twin force performance turbos. It has a lot of Holley goodies on it. Right now I'm running the Atomic Air Force intake, but I'm actually going to switch to a Holley high ram with a TIC air-to-water intercooler. Has AFR heads on it, MSD coils. Something that a lot of people ask about is the trans, what transaxle I'm running. And this is a SODEV SL9020. So it's a Porsche-style gearbox that's been flipped over. That was probably the most expensive part of the truck.
Oh yeah, that's all the other stuff together.
Yeah,
is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a very slick piece of gear, man.
Yeah, it took a while. It took about a year to get it after I put the down payment on it.
Yeah,
which that tells you how expensive it is.
Yeah, there's also like currency conversion when you buy that. I think I remember that.
Yeah, and so that was funny because it ended up being more because the currency had taken a crap right before I put a down payment on it.
Yeah, you're talking like a crypto guy, but you're just trying to buy a transmission.
Yeah, and so it was like trying to time it out right. I was literally like pushing it off a week, and I think it brought it down like $300. Yeah. The rear is based off of a 5th gen Camaro, so I have all of the Ride Tech arms for a 5th gen Camaro, and then the tops are actually from a Chevy SS, you know, like the Caprice. A lot of people don't know that the 5th gen Camaros and the Caprices shared the same rear cradle. And cantilever suspension that I designed here, it's close to 1-to-1 motion ratio. QA1 mod coilovers that just came in, which I absolutely love. They look like jewelry.
Yeah, and you've got fast and slow adjustment on that. Those are nice.
Or this will be the trans cooler, and this is the oil cooler. And I'll probably have some type of ducting that goes from the tonneau cover down to it and then ducts out the back.
When you've got the bed rails on here and you've got all your aero there, yeah, you've got an ability to move a lot of air down and through that.
Yep.
Is your tailgate vented, or is it?
It will be like a tailgate. It'll probably just be like a strip at the
like
top.
a don't sit on this tailgate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it will probably just be the top strip of the tailgate and then have just like a mesh screen where air can flow.
Well, I mean, this is like the heartbeat of the car. This is extreme. I mean, this is the part that I look at and follow when you're building, and I just think this is extremely cool. It's certainly very inspiring to me. But like, what are the things that you've learned, like the handful, whatever they are, that the car's taught you, or that you've had to learn in order to build the car?
I think the toughest thing that I had to like wrap my head around is you're gonna mess it up, and it's gonna happen more than once, and you have to be prepared to waste money while also just spending even more. So if you can kind of get that through your head of like, okay, I am gonna mess something up, I am gonna have to redo it, then it takes a lot of the stress off of it, when it actually does happen. I can't tell you how many times I've messed up a bracket, or shoot, when I was bending these frame rails right here, I bent two of the same, and that's a long piece of tubing that, isn't the cheapest. So that kind of stuff, will happen. And so really, if you can wrap your head around the fact that it is inevitable, it will happen, then you will you'll have a much happier and easier time building your vehicle. But man, it's just putting in as much time as you can. Obviously life gets in the way a lot of the time. I have taken months break on this truck, and people ask why, but you kind of got to put life first, and you have other priorities. But as long as you can put an hour here, 30 minutes there, it'll get done at some point. But
keep making progress.
Yeah.
You talk about like the making what you called mistakes. I mean, that's topical. It's on my mind right now too. A friend of mine actually calls it tuition. Like, he thinks of it as just the cost of going to school, right? Because it's your first car.
Yeah.
I've never built a car like this or my Charger. So whatever you're spending, maybe it's not wastage. Maybe it's just your dues. You got to pay your dues to figure out how to make that again.
Totally.
And don't have to be perfect.
No.
Just have to be your best.
This truck is, if I was to restart it today, it would be completely different.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things that I would change, but I started this truck build when I was like 19, and it shows my progression throughout, like learning how to do different things, whether it's fabrication or, simple mechanical stuff, or plumbing, wiring, you name it. It shows my, skill set progressing, and, I'm sure on the next vehicle that I build, it'll be the same, where, yeah, it'll be nicer than this, but it'll still not be anywhere near where I'm at after I finish that build. So,
well, part of the build is like the wanting, right? The wanting to do something next, and that, if you're really into it, maybe that never goes away. Maybe there's always the thing that you want to do next.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's probably something worth cherishing, actually.
Yeah, I hope that feeling never goes away of wanting to do something else. I mean, I have plenty of ideas for the next project, but.
Hey, speaking of ideas, can I borrow something?
Yeah.
Can I borrow that intake?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's just sitting on here, so.
Okay.
We can just pop it off.
Let's do that. Because I gotta build a firewall.
Oh,
and, this is the rag went down in. I'll fish it out.
Oh, it's fine. I have this one to sit on anyways. So yeah, this is what I'll end up running.
Oh, mama.
She's a biggin', but she will definitely do the job for needing to run 1,000-ish horsepower. I love it because the tonneau cover will sit about right here.
So, at the top of the intercooler.
Yeah. So there will be plenty to be seen, even on the top of the tonneau cover.
Little piece of jewelry, man. Dude, this is great. Thank you for letting me borrow the intake.
No problem.
Seriously, It's, you got to come over and you got to see it. It's so crammed up in there. It's really ridiculous. But
Yeah.
that's going to help me get everything kind of patterned right.
For sure.
Thanks for talking about this. This has
Yeah.
been a lot of fun to see the pictures and all that sort of deal. But I'm looking forward to when we are together at the brewery and we're having like another night when we have the trucks and everything out.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to when you can bring this.
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
Oh, yeah, well.
It'll be fun to drive it on the street and, get people's reactions.
Oh, I think they'll be terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
I'm
going to be
sure.
the coolest go-kart ever. All right, bud. I'll see you next time.
For sure.
Walking through the shop and seeing all of the builds, man, I take my unfair share of inspiration from each. There is always something to appreciate, like a detail, a way that form and function play off of one another. The fact that they're all built to be driven. Studying other builds, especially in person, well, it just leaves me filled with fresh ideas. And you know what? It occurs to me that us regular folk builders we got some things working in our favor. We're willing to make mistakes in the pursuit of doing our best work because each of us as an individual is the only customer that needs to be satisfied. And there is satisfaction in the result as much as there is in the process that got us there. And by that line of thinking, the work we do and skills we acquire and practice they're not just mere merit badges, but mile markers along the path of our becoming the person who can design and fabricate and make what has only been in our imagination up to that point. I don't know about y'all, but I think that's the path I'm going to be on for the rest of my days. Thank y'all for being here, and until next time, you take care.